here we are. And not only that, at one point, Sarafiena and Grant were kissing upside down, and that is just diabolical. Like, this is not Spider-Man. Hi everyone, my name is Dimitri and welcome back to DimitriTube, The Bachelor, Night 4. Let's talk about it. As always, if you're enjoying my videos, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound the subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. I'm a growing YouTuber and the like subscribes really help me out. I have a lot to do this week, so let's just dive into the review. So the episode starts and all the contestants go get sangria before the first one-on-one starts, and just a couple things I want to mention. Drag me in the comments, I don't care. I'm gonna be talking mad about Carolina in this video, but I will say she does have really cute outfits, and this is one. Her outfit at the beginning of this was really cute. I also liked Latia's dress as well. It was a little grandma, but I still really liked it. And we also get a confessional from Juliana, and she says, I hope I get the one-on-one to secure the bag. And I laughed at that probably way harder than I should have. And fast forward, she does not get the one-on-one this episode, but you could tell Grant was saving a better one-on-one for her. The one-on-ones this episode were like okay, and I think Grant knew there was an even better one in the next country, so I truly think he saved it for Juliana. So the first one-on-one is with Dina, and at the start of her date, she tells Grant, my outfit is cute, but if I'd known, I would have wore something cuter, and I agree with that. Her outfit is not bad, but definitely for a one-on-one, I expected better. And just in general on this show, I guess she didn't like troll Reddit enough, but like as soon as you go to the other countries, you gotta pull out your best outfits anytime you're outside, because as you can see, you can have a date anytime. It really sucks, but you have to bring a lot of options when you go on this show. And I know it can cost a lot of money, but like borrow from friends, pull pieces that you can wear multiple times that are versatile. You really have to like sit down and figure it out, because you're always on camera and you want to look your best. So it's really something you got to figure out. And for the date, they walk around, they play a little soccer, do some dancing, and Dina's makeup also looks really good. Overall, honestly, it almost felt like Dina was taking Grant on the date. And then at one point, Grant and Dina take one of those like small boats on the river, and Grant talks about how he's a giver, and Dina asks if it's lonely and says you should have someone where giving is reciprocal. And Grant admits he's never had a dynamic in a relationship where they push each other. After that, we move on to the night portion, and I liked Dina's dress, but I feel like this would make more sense for a daytime look. I don't really love it for an evening look. During the one-on-one, Grant tells Dina that she reminds him of his mom, but not in a weird way. And Dina also talks about how she's an ice queen because she comes from a big family that didn't talk about feelings. And Grant also talks about how he ended a previous 7-year relationship because he was too focused on his career, and I thought this was a red flag. So this is not a major red flag, but this is just something wild I want to point out. We just keep, in general, I feel like I just keep hearing more and more stories about people who have dated for like 6 to 10 years and yet never got married. Like they ended up breaking up for whatever reason, but they were dating 6 to 10 years, and that's just like kind of wild to me. Like, was there no end game? So I will give Grant a slight pass on this because he was playing basketball. So if you're trying to make it to the NBA, NFL, yada, 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 you are fully focused on your career, and a relationship is very much gonna come second. But he didn't specify if it was because he was focused on basketball, or the other option is he was focused on basketball, that didn't work out, and now he had to figure out his career switch, which could have been it as well. And the only other pass that I'll give is like, if you've been in a relationship for 7 years and like 4 of those years were in high school or 4 of those years were like in college, I can give that like a slight pass, but even then, I don't know. And clearly this is a case-by-case basis, but just in general, it just seems like there are just so many people who just seem to not have any goal, any sort of goal when it comes to dating. Anyways, so going back to Dina and Grant, after watching this one-on-one, Dina and Grant make more sense to me. Like, I feel better about Dina, but I still don't think they'd be a good match. Grant admits that he's more of a provider. He's not as used to dating someone as successful. He's not used to having a dynamic in a relationship where they continually push each other. And Grant is feeling good about this relationship after this date, but is that ultimately what he wants in the long run? I don't think so. I do think he likes Dina, but in terms of connection, I see way more of a connection with Carolina, Rose, and Juliana. After that, we move on to the group date, and right before the group date, we had this like kind of weird moment of Parisa talking about how rough of a morning she had. And just, if you watch other reality shows, we get more like fun. I would consider this a silly moment, but ABC was trying to make it more serious, but like they really should have just made this a little more silly. But you get more moments like this on like other reality shows, but on this one you don't. So when it does happen, it almost feels like kind of weird. But also, like I said before, I think Parisa's kind of weird. So the contestants all go to Chinchon and Sidebar. Grant and Jesse Palmer kept trying to like roll their R's, but like, if you know Spanish, you roll your R's when it's a double R, and pretty much every Spanish word they used that had one R was not a double R, so it didn't really require a roll, and it was like kind of annoying me at a point. Anyways, they travel to Chinchon, they get to ride donkeys, they learn to be matadors, dress up as matadors, and get to ride a mechanical bull. What did y'all think of this date? For me, with the 1 being the lowest and the 10 being the highest, I would give this like a 6. So riding the donkeys in Chinchon, that was kind of cool, but the matadors part was like pretty lame. And random sidebar, I think I would rather ride a donkey than a horse. The donkeys just seem more chill. I don't know. If anyone knows the difference between horses and donkeys, let me know, but donkeys just seem more chill and it seems more unique. Oh, and Juliana served us a denim romper or jumper, I believe, and that was actually really cute. For the group date challenge, the contestants ride a mechanical bull, and Zoe and Alex like straight up cheated. So when you ride a mechanical bull, you're supposed to have one hand here and you put the other hand in the air, and that's also how you signal for them to go. But Alex and Zoe grabbed the horns to hold on longer, and that's very much cheating. Jesse Palmer even yelled while narrating they found the cheat code. Anyways, after that, we move on to the night portion, and Carolina's outfit was so cute. It was this like black mini dress with like a V cut in the middle, and I think it was black gloves with like poofs at the end. I don't think it was connected to the dress, but regardless, this dress was really cute. I had to give it an honorable mention. And I know y'all probably do not like Carolina, but she is giving us fashion this season. Like overall, this season, when it comes to the fashions, they aren't very good, but Carolina is like delivering us very standout looks. So there were a few one-on-ones I want to talk about. The first one is with Parisa. It was like very unimportant. They talked about rocks, and then we had a one-on-one with Rose. Their conversation was so generic and not even good. They talked about bouncing back from rough times. And again, I think he just wants to take her to the fantasy suites. And we also get a one-on-one with Zoe. Zoe talks about growing up in Southern Virginia in a predominantly white town, and she felt like the black sheep, and she was never told she was pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and clock her for this. I don't think this was genuine, but at the same time, I could just be annoyed with her because she's been pretty annoying this season so far. And y'all, she says she's from Southern Virginia, so I'm from Northern Virginia, and overall, there's not a lot of predominantly white towns in Southern Virginia.
Sorry, y'all. I did not make this clear in the video. So when she says I'm from a predominantly white area, I feel like she is exaggerating. She is acting like the place she's from is like 99% white and she's the only black person. And again, I just feel like there's a lot of black people in the South, and I do think she's exaggerating. Maybe the place she was from was like 20% black people and like 5% Latinos or something like that. But she's saying it like she was the only black person in the area, and I just don't believe that's the case. Now, if she was from North Dakota, Maine, New Hampshire, or something like that, I would believe it. But like Virginia, I just do not believe her.
Maybe if she had said Western Virginia, I could kind of believe it. But the fact that she said Southern Virginia, I just don't believe it. And not only that, it's possible her town was predominantly white, but most likely if you go one town over or two towns over, it's probably more diverse. And also, it was very sus that she called where she's from a town. In Virginia, we don't really have towns. Most people go by like their county or their city. Like for her to say her town was like just really sus to me. Like this is not New Jersey. And another reason I clocked this was because Charity did a similar thing. Charity also claimed to be from a predominantly white area, but she was also from Georgia and like a part of Georgia that was not that far from Atlanta. And I just didn't believe it. Like in general, there's like a lot of black people in the South, and like I just certain places it's just rough for me to believe. And last thing I want to say about this, Zoe also says she was never told she was pretty. And like I said on a previous review, I was fairly certain she was a nerd growing up, to which she admitted she was a nerd. And the other thing she says on this episode, or last episode, is that she wrestled in high school. I'm sorry, y'all, the boys are not checking for the wrestlers. They're not. So yeah, it's very unfortunate she was never told she was pretty. But again, it sounds like she was a nerd and she was very tomboyish. So again, I don't know how her high school experience went down, but that does not sound like to me the type of girl a lot of the guys tend to be checking for. Okay, now let's dive into some of the Carolina drama. So let me know how in the comments how y'all feel about Carolina, but like we get snippets of her earlier in the episode, and basically anytime she talks, it's very much like, how can I make this about me? So Carolina is annoying all the other contestants in the house with her nonstop complaining, and she's questioning this process, and it's rubbing the other contestants the wrong way because she's probably had the most time with Grant, and yet she's the one questioning the process the most. Juliana pulls her for a one-on-one, and she basically checks her. She tells her, if you're so unsure, then just pack your bags. Like, you don't have to stay here. And then Carolina tries to shade her back and pretend she doesn't understand what this conversation is about. And in general, Carolina is very shady. But Carolina gets caught, and it becomes clear to all of us viewers because Juliana asks her, why are you here? And then Carolina responds, because I see potential. And then Juliana claps back and says, well, that's not what you're saying to all the other contestants in the house, that you're annoying. And in general, this was just fantastic television. We were literally watching two Supremes clash. So after that, Carolina and Juliana return to the other contestants, and the other contestants try to get them to talk about what happened. Juliana is like, Carolina, it's up to you. Carolina is like, Juliana, no, it's up to you. So eventually Carolina talks to everyone and says, if you have something to say, and then say it. So Zoe and Rose told her that she's doing too much, and then Carolina responds by saying she feels attacked, and then she starts crying. Grant walks in trying to give out the group date rose, but he can't because she's crying. So then Carolina pulls her for yet again another one-on-one, and she gets even more time because he has to console her. So just a few things I want to say this. I absolutely love that Juliana pulled Carolina for that one-on-one and checked her. I love this, and she did it so elegantly, and probably the whole thing is messy, but she did it in the least messy way possible. And not only that, when Grant decided not to give a group date rose, Juliana apologized to the rest of the group for that. And I love that moment because I don't think I've ever seen that before. Whenever a contestant ruins the group date, they never apologize. If anything, they're proud of the fact they ruined the group date, but Juliana literally apologized to all the other contestants. Next, when it comes to Carolina, there's a few things going on. So she's very immature to me. Like, she's the type of person, she always has to be right, and she always has to have the last word, and that is so childish to me. And not only is she being childish, she's playing a little bit of a game here. Later on, Carolina talks to Grant about Juliana pulling her, and she specifically says Juliana questioned her intentions, and only Juliana. She did not mention the fact that Rose and Zoe also did it too. And in this moment, as soon as Zoe and Rose agreed with Juliana, she started crying, saying she felt attacked, yada, yada, yada. But I think it's funny she left that out when she was talking to Grant, that multiple people felt this way about her. Next, back on the island of Puerto Rico, I think Carolina is one of the baddest, and she always got her way. Like, when it comes to dating and guys, she always gets what she wanted. And now that it's one guy and multiple women and she has to fight for attention, she is really a fish out of water, and she cannot handle this. And Carolina does mention that she's worried about time, she's worried about this process, which is very valid, but at the same time, this is season 29. We have had 29 seasons of this. There's been like 20 more seasons of The Bachelorette. You know how this process goes. You signed up for this show. You know you do not get a lot of time with the lead. So for her to question the process makes sense, but at the same time, like, you know what you're signing up for. And like how Juliana said, if you're gonna do all this and ruin the process for all the other contestants, just pack your bags and go home. You don't have to be here. Go back and date in Puerto Rico like you normally would. You'll get all the time in the world. You don't have to be here. After that, we get a one-on-one with Sarafiena, and for the date, they go bungee jumping, and it was actually raining that day, which I would not want to go bungee jumping in the rain, but here we are. And not only that, at one point, Sarafiena and Grant were kissing upside down, and that is just diabolical. comical. Like, this is not Spider-Man. But in their defense, I will say, I do think Sarafiena and Grant look really cute together. Sarafiena and Grant look really cute together, and Natalie and Grant look really cute together as well. After that, we move on to the night portion, and Sarafiena is serving us a blue jumpsuit. I don't love this for the night portion. I was expecting more razzle dazzle. During the night portion of the date, Grant tells her that she does not kiss enough or doesn't kiss deep enough, and he questions why she's holding back. And Sarafiena responds, "It's because my mom is watching. I swear it's not that deep." And then Sarafiena talks about growing up with a single mom who is amazing, but she feels like she missed out on a two-parent household. She also mentions that she dated emotionally unavailable men, and oftentimes they would feel like she's great on paper, but there's no connection, which for her was really tough to hear. And it's interesting she says that, because this is the reason I very much do not online date anymore, because oftentimes somebody has a great profile, but when you meet in person, there's no chemistry, and I was so tired of that happening. Anyways, going back to the date with Grant and Sarafiena, I absolutely love this date. This was possibly one of the best one-on-ones I've ever seen on a night portion of this show. This was just fun. And not only was it fun, it wasn't like a ton of trauma dumping that they normally do. So overall, it just seemed more like a realistic date. And yes, Sarafiena got an opportunity to discuss her dating struggles, which I liked, but it wasn't a ton of trauma, which I probably liked even more. After that, we move on to the cocktail party, and let me talk about one of the outfits. The first one I want to talk about is Juliana. Her dress was so cute. It was a long gown. It was either brown or like a dark green, military green with gold chain straps. I really like this dress. The only read I do have is like the torso was like a corset, which I didn't love, but this was still a gorgeous dress. And yep, it's that time, outfit of the episode. For this week's outfit of the episode, I'm giving it to Carolina during the cocktail party. This dress was just so gorgeous. Carolina is serving us, it looks almost like a tulle mini dress, but it's slightly poofy in the front, and then it goes long in the back, and then it straps at the neck with an opening in the middle. It's backless. This is just so cute, but so sexy at the same time. And not only that, her makeup always looks good, and then she pairs it with these gold strappy heels. I know her personality is terrible, but this outfit is just undeniable. The thing about Carolina is like, she knows what looks good on her body, and she has great style. Like, I don't love her personal style, but I can recognize that her style, she does it very well. And like I said before, this really isn't a fashion season, but Carolina is giving us really fashiony looks, and she's taking a lot of risks with what she's wearing, and she frequently stands out among the other contestants, and it's like no choice but to stand. After that, we have a one-on-one with Grant and Carolina. Grant tells Carolina he does not like to have his character questioned, and Carolina said it's normal to have doubts in this process. Grant responds, "Yes, it's valid to have doubts, but you should have come to me and we could have figured it out together." And I loved that moment for Grant. Like, that was such a great response. And this is why normally on the show they pick leads who were former contestants, because if you're a former contestant, you understand what the contestants on your show are going through. And that was one moment where that really was useful for Grant. But even though Grant validated Carolina, she was still pessimistic after the whole thing. And overall, this just shows that Carolina feels like a complete fish out of water in this process, because Carolina is still failing to see the view of the other contestants about how she's monopolizing all of the time when she should be sharing that time with the other contestants. And again, that just boils down to like a maturity thing. So Carolina goes back to the other contestants, and she has a moment with Dina, and Dina is like reassuring her, and I was like, why is this happening? But keep in mind, Dina had a one-on-one, so she was not at the last group date and saw everything that went on with her and the other contestants. And now Dina is validating the enemy and giving her yet again another excuse to play victim. And I think this is going to kind of screw her over the next episode, but we'll just have to wait and see. And overall, this moment with Dina and Carolina was just so extra. And again, the women this season are so emotional. After that, Carolina and Rose get into it. Rose is concerned because she feels like her relationship with Grant is tarnished due to the earlier drama in the season. And Rose talks about someone mentioning her. Carolina butts herself into the conversation, and Carolina says,
"Do you think someone's one's mentioning you, because no one would have a reason to mention you.
And that was so nasty. Like, that was crazy she said that. Carolina is childish. That was just so unnecessary, and she clearly wanted the smoke. Carolina is still upset over what Rose said on the other episode, and it's like, Carolina, can you just distance yourself? Like, you don't have to do all of this. And the irony about all of this is that Carolina brought up Rose on one of her one-on-ones, so clearly someone is mentioning Rose. Like, ugh, the irony. So Rose ends up crying, Grant goes and consoles her, and Rose ends up self-eliminating. And at this point, it's almost wild that Grant is not seeing a common denominator. As viewers, we're seeing the situation one way, and Grant is seeing it a completely other way. So it's possible Grant has not put the pieces together, but he needs to put it together quickly. After that, we move on to the rose ceremony, and there are a few upsets. Zoe got a rose, and I'm just like, what? We have to do another week with her? Carolina got a rose, and literally all the other contestants rolled their eyes, which, how did Grant not catch that? Parisa finally got eliminated. I thought she was going to be a night one sent home, so I'm shocked she even made it to Madrid. And then Natalie got sent home as well, which I thought was shocking. It very much seemed like Grant had a strong connection with her, but I guess it wasn't that strong. And that is the end of the episode and the end of this review. Put your thoughts below in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and pound that like button, pound that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.